This video is brought to you by Squarespace. Stick around to the end of the video for a special offer they're making available through my channel. The Forza series, both Motorsport and Horizon, is not a series I've really connected with, if for no other reason than I'm not really a racing fan, especially not racing games like this. I'm more of a Burnout or a Need for Speed Underground kind of guy, so when I played Forza Horizon 4 a while back, I kind of bounced off it. I could see how excellent it was, it just didn't do anything for me personally. Since then though, I think things have changed for me a little bit. I've become more interested in a category of games that you can return to in between all of the other more demanding games I play, or the ones I have to play for my job. I've come to really appreciate games like Dirt 5, that Hot Wheels Unleashed game that came out a while back, or Riders Republic, which released just this week. These drop-in, drop-out experiences fit with my schedule, with my workload. Plus, they're also just great games, and as I've spent more time with them, I've thought a lot about their appeal, what makes them tick, and what separates good from great in this category. For that reason, I was looking forward to getting my hands on Forza Horizon 5, which, along with Forza Motorsport, is arguably the epitome of the racing genre at the moment. Horizon has always managed to carefully walk the line between simulation and arcade racer, offering the attention to detail that enthusiasts love, while still providing plenty of casual, friendly inroads to make the game enticing and accessible to those such as myself, who know nothing about cars and who prefer the type of racing game that gives you bonus points for how many cars you smash during a race. I'm here to tell you that I really enjoyed Forza Horizon 5 well more than I had in the past. My recent interest in this style of game, as well as the points of comparison that I've recently experienced, allow me to view this from a different perspective than I did with Horizon 4, and I come away a little awestruck by what Playground Games have built here. Technically, this is astounding, and regardless of the platform you play it on, you're going to experience an incredibly beautiful world full of incredibly beautiful cars. Exploring Mexico, either in free roam or in races, is just fantastic. You really do feel like you're exploring this world, finding new stretches of roads or events you want to come back to because they're just such fun to drive. The campaign and overall progression structure always leave you feeling rewarded no matter what you're doing, without burying you under a mess of menus and currencies that could leave you feeling confused and overwhelmed. And the customization stuff is just mind-blowing. Horizon 5 feels like a game that wants you to carve out a distinct identity as a member of the world and its community, and the tools they give you to do that are absolutely up to the task. Having said that, Forza Horizon 5 didn't melt my icy heart quite as much as I'd hoped. I like this game, I admire it, but I don't love it because it's not quite for me. It's not quite as arcadey as I typically enjoy, nor is it the CarPG thing that I love from games like Need for Speed Underground. Horizon lacks a career campaign that sees you move from sloppy jalopy to $1 million supercar, upgrading your fleet of cars bit by bit as you earn your stripes in the racing world. That's fine, by the way. I'm not saying it should have that, I'm just saying that that's what I personally really love, and Horizon doesn't have that. Those CarPGs are sort of like cats that slowly warm up to you over time. Horizon 5 is like a puppy dog that's just so excited to see you when you walk in the door, and it's jumping around and wagging its tail, and it just wants you to play with it and experience everything all at once. As great as that is for motor enthusiasts who want to hop straight into their dream car, it doesn't quite click for me. Still, my personal preferences aside, Forza Horizon 5 is so good that it is objectively good. A word that we really shouldn't use in reviews, but it is. It is objectively excellent, and so while I don't personally love it, I have absolutely no hesitation in strongly recommending it to you. The Forza series exists as many things: a simulation-style platform for enthusiasts, a casual knockabout arcade racer for those just looking for some good times, a multiplayer game to play either with or against other people. In addition to being all of those things, it's a technical powerhouse and a tentpole offering from Microsoft designed to showcase the power of their hardware. To that end, I was interested to see how Forza Horizon 5 performed across Microsoft's family of devices, so I tested it on an Xbox One X, an Xbox Series S, an Xbox Series X, and a PC running an RTX 2080 Ti. So right off the top, I'm going to tell you right now that Forza is an absolutely spectacular looking game no matter which platform you're playing it on. From a moderately high-end PC through to the last-gen Xbox, both Mexico and the cars that cruise its landscapes look superb, and at times incredible. More than any other Forza before it, Horizon 5 manages to capture a sweeping sense of scale and diversity. The volcano towering above the playable space is visible from almost anywhere, and you can drive to the top of that thing and then look down at everything below. Horizon 5 really puts the horizon in Forza, because the draw distances that this game is capable of rendering are so impressive. The feeling of barreling down the side of an erupting volcano while the landscape just stretches out endlessly before you, that is an awesome feeling, and it's one that the game consistently serves up, and it never gets old.
Bien! You faced the volcano. Now let's see how you handle some real backer racing, my friend.
The beauty of its biomes is so distracting sometimes. Part of the joy that comes from Horizon is its transportive power. Like you hit that button on your Xbox controller and you're stepping into this other, more perfect world. From the cactus desert to sandy beaches to rolling farmlands to dense jungle to narrow city streets, all of it is so beautiful. No matter what you're doing and where you're going, you just want to be in that place. It's so bright and colorful and pristine. And look, these guys modeled the interior of the buildings. Why would you do that? This is a racing game, for God's sake. Take a break, okay? Relax. It's not necessary. But thank you, it looks amazing. If you have Game Pass, I'm gonna say it's worth logging into this game and spending a few hours with it just to see it, because I think the combination of the aesthetic design choices, its expansiveness, its location diversity, it's something that will appeal to you on some level, whether you're a racing fan or not. It seems silly to talk about how beautiful the cars are, and to be honest with you, I feel like I can't. Like, you can see them for yourself here. Obviously, they're stunning. I don't have the tools to explain why exactly they look as good as they do, but they look fucking good. And even to someone who is not into cars at all, I spent more time than I care to admit just admiring some of these cars in either the garage or with the photo mode or just panning the camera around while I was driving. So we know Horizon is pretty, but just how pretty will it look on your system of choice, and what compromises have been made across different devices to keep this thing running at a consistent frame rate? Well, let's start at the bottom and work our way up. I don't have access to a base model Xbox One at the moment, but I do have an Xbox One X. Now this is targeting 4K 30 FPS, and I have to say I was really impressed by how much visual fidelity was retained here. The decision to go with 30 FPS has enabled Playground Games to keep the world looking as crisp as it does on other stronger platforms. There is more pop in here than you'll see on the Series X or PC, but that's about all I could really spot. I'm sure a more detailed comparison will highlight more differences, but as a casual observer, I really felt like I wasn't missing out on much visual fidelity when I was playing on the Xbox One X. Having said that, it does run at 30 FPS, and regardless of platform, this has two impacts. Firstly, 30 FPS, it just doesn't feel good. I mean, it's okay, but when you start playing 60 FPS, man, it is impossible to go back. That feeling of smoothness is core to a game like this, and while 30 FPS doesn't feel sluggish, it does feel like a significant downgrade versus a 60 FPS experience. The base Xbox One consoles actually run at 1080p 30 FPS for this, and it would have been great to see Playground Games offer a 60 FPS version here on the Xbox One X as well, running at 1080p. That's actually something that 343 are doing with Halo, and Digital Foundry have reported that it runs especially well. Obviously, Playground Games have limited bandwidth and they chose not to go down that path, fair enough, but it would have been a nice addition for anyone still rocking that last-gen hardware. The other thing that any of the 30 FPS modes do across all devices is turn motion blur way up, to the point where I really don't like it. It's too much for me. Any major movement left or right just results in the environment becoming completely out of focus owing to how much motion blur is kicking in. I could deal with the frame rate, to be honest with you, but it was this motion blur that really spoiled things for me. I wonder if I'm being too precious about this, since motion blur is generally something I hate, but I guess you can kind of see it for yourself here in the footage and you can make up your own mind. Next up, Series S. There are two display options for this one: Performance mode with dynamic graphical settings targeting 1080p 60 FPS, and Quality mode targeting 1440p 30 FPS. One important thing to note though was that the Quality mode is currently running at 1080p and will remain at that until November 9th when a patch kicks it over to 1440p. So Performance mode first, this is absolutely the best way to play this game. 1080p still looks great. I really couldn't notice any significant downgrades in visual fidelity. Pop-in exists, but it's pretty minimal. Most importantly, you get that 60 FPS, which can drop at times, but generally feels really solid. This also keeps motion blur to a minimum. I love this mode, and I continue to be stunned that a tiny little box, no bigger than a size 6 shoebox, can produce this sort of performance. It's amazing. The Quality mode on the Series S, like I said, this is actually running at 1080p 30 FPS for now, but that'll get bumped to 1440p soon. Still 30 FPS though. Even if this was running at 1440p right now, I still don't think it would be worth the sacrifices made. Like I said before, 30 FPS is a big step down, the motion blur is turned right up, and I can't be sure about it, but it seems like there's more popping occurring here. If you were giving up all of this to get 4K, I'd be like, okay, maybe, but to go from 1080p to 1440p and trade away this much, I don't think it's worth it, and I would strongly recommend playing this on performance mode if you are playing on a Series S. Xbox Series X next. God, that was hard. And to be honest, this one's a real head scratcher. Here, the performance mode targets 4K 60 FPS with dynamic graphics settings, and the quality mode also targets 4K 60 FPS, but the graphical settings are locked. So these are both 4K, but one of them runs at half the frame rate. I don't know what you get for that, to be honest. I'm sure that detailed graphical analysis will highlight the differences, but I really couldn't see that much of a difference between these two modes in terms of visual fidelity, and yet the quality mode has half the frame rate and way more motion blur. I can't imagine a world where I would make that trade. I'm really happy to be proven wrong on this one, but certainly for my money, there's no way I'd be playing the quality mode. Finally, I also tested this on a 2080 Ti at max settings, 1440p. That's where the majority of the footage from this video was pulled from. Incredible performance. It caps your frame rate to your monitor's refresh rate, so because I was playing on a 60Hz TV, I was getting a very solid 60 FPS, some minor dips here and there. Pop-in was so minimal, like you really had to look for it. Motion blur, there's actually two settings for it, and I kept it on short because I found that it was actually quite nice at that setting, where turning it off entirely made the game feel less smooth. But yeah, overall, fantastic performance and optimization, and not a single bug or crash or issue the entire time playing. Flawless top to bottom. Playground Games are absolute wizards. So that's the breakdown. Long story short, Forza Horizon 5 is a stunningly beautiful game that runs well on whichever console you choose, only the performance modes offer a significant improvement in the overall experience, unless you're like taking screenshots or something. Forza Horizon 5 is still a technical marvel that showcases what Xbox's hardware can do. It's also a really, really fucking great racing game. The Horizon Festival is like the Cannonball Run meets the Fire Festival. If the Fire Festival was a happy place instead of a massive scam that we all got to enjoy from afar because Schadenfreude is delicious. A bunch of rich people haul their collection of million-dollar cars to a secret location, which has been transformed for their racing enjoyment. Race circuits have been built, stunt ramps erected, the local populace evacuated. Seriously, drive up to any house or building, there's never anyone there. They've all been forcibly moved along so as to not get skittled by you and your mates while you hoon around on Halo Warthogs. There is a joy to Horizon that Playground Games are acutely aware of, and everything they do is carefully calibrated to protect and deliver that sense of joy. They're like the Marie Kondo of game studios. It's impossible not to have a big dumb smile on your face as you're dropped out of a cargo plane straight onto the track, and then you have to race the plane across the Mexican countryside, and then the plane lets you win because losing makes you sad, and Playground Games do not want to make you feel sad. Ever. It's impossible to not be won over by this landscape, which seems to somehow giggle with glee as you tickle it with your tires. It's impossible to not feel at least a little bit ecstatic when the spin of a wheel unlocks some legendary supercar that would have otherwise taken you a few hours worth of grinding to unlock. Horizon is this joy Pez dispenser that never needs to be refilled. The entire end-to-end experience is this precisely tuned machine with one objective: to make you as happy as you want to be. You deciding what makes you happy is the hardest thing you'll ever do in Forza Horizon 5, because there's just so damn much to choose from. From the moment you hit the tarmac, you can go pretty much anywhere you want, do whatever you want, and do it in whatever car you want. You may just wish to cruise the open world collecting XP signs or discovering new portions of the map. You may wish to begin making your way through the campaign, which opens up new marquee adventure races periodically. You may wish to start focusing on a specific style of racing, like street racing or off-road or stunt events. Or maybe you just want to fuck around with your friends, join a convoy, roll around racing each other in cross-country tour events, or just ridiculous PvP battles. I don't want to over-exaggerate. Obviously, Obviously, some of this stuff is closed off to you at first and you need to work toward it, but none of it is closed off to you for very long, and within the first few hours you've unlocked every major pathway that the game has to offer. At that point, you can choose to stick with one, or you can just jump around doing different things. It's entirely up to you every step of the way. This sense of freedom is the best thing that Forza Horizon does, but it does come at a price. It's what I mentioned in the intro. I, like many others, really enjoy that CarPG thing where you're on a journey and you start as a nobody and you borrow a set of shitty wheels, and through a combination of clutch wins and careful car upgrades and either buying or winning new cars, you'll slowly work your way into new events, new categories, new classes of car, etc. It not only gently eases you into the game and its more complex systems, but it gives you a feeling of progression that Forza Horizon 5 is constitutionally averse to. I actually spoke with the game's lead designer about this during a hands-on session, and he commented that the reason Playground haven't gone down this CarPG path was because they love how much freedom their games have and they want to protect that. I totally get that, and like I said, I'm not saying it should be any different, I'm just saying that I personally wish it was different, at least a little. I would gladly trade away some of this unrestricted freedom that I immediately had for a campaign mode that held a little back for a while and made me really earn my first supercar rather than gifting me 3 of them within the first 10 minutes of booting up the game. Still, I think it's a testament to Horizon's quality that even despite this absence, I really enjoyed making my way through the game's campaign. The way it works is that each map is divided into biomes, and as you accrue racing cred, you'll eventually be able to do an expedition race, which establishes a new Horizon Festival outpost. The jungle, the volcanic waste, the desert, the beachside, the street scene, stunt driving, and more are all waiting to be unlocked, and you'll likely spend around 15 to 20 hours making your way through all of this. The adventure races are your big milestone events, and you'll generally unlock one of these every hour or so. These are the ones that see you racing up and down an erupting volcano, or racing a freight train, or a monster truck, or whatever. They're always fantastic, and the quality of them pace the adventure really well, because you're always pushing to unlock just one more before logging off for the night. Separate from those bigger goals, Horizon is brimming with smaller goals and tasks you can busy yourself with. The world is littered with collectibles granting experience points or discount fast travel. There are speed traps and drift challenges on certain streets, making the process of moving from one race event to another an unexpected opportunity to push yourself. You can't drive for more than a few seconds without bumping into another race event, of which there are no less than a dozen different categories, and each one of those are linked in a circuit such that you unlock more of them as you do them. Each car has its own bonus perks which can be unlocked to provide bonus experience, or some free currency, or make it easier to score high skill point bonuses when driving. Everything you do is probably contributing to some sort of broader accolade goal, which will eventually award you with currency and XP and new cars and new character customization options. And there's a seasonal model in place as well that gives you plenty of unique challenges to chase, like using certain cars in certain races or driving at certain speeds for long enough, etc. With all this freedom of choice and all these activities and all these different progression paths, you'd be worried that Horizon would kind of collapse in on itself and that you'd log in, you'd look at all of it, you'd experience this sort of indecision paralysis, you'd log off and you'd go to bed. But that doesn't happen because Horizon doesn't want you to think about what you should be doing. The way it accomplishes that is by just making everything rewarding and everything fun. The solution to all of life's problems is always to just hit the accelerator, and no matter which car you're in, or which road you're driving on, or which event you signed up for, you're doing the right thing. As much as Forza Horizon 5 enables freedom of choice, it also offers very meaningful choice, because its endlessly rich and flexible customization options allow you to tune to the finest detail exactly how you want to engage the world that Playground have built for you. It starts at the very beginning with character creation, allowing you to choose how you present to the world. Throughout your journey, you'll unlock plenty of customization cosmetics, all of which are free, allowing you to pimp your avatar in much the same way you can pimp your ride. You're given a choice of one of 3 starting cars, but that's a pretty meaningless choice because within minutes you're winning new cars either through race events or through wheel spins, which are kind of like a staple of the Horizon formula at this point. Once you have the car you'd like to spend some time with, it's time to customize it. As a non-car dude, I feel woefully unequipped to be able to properly explain a lot of this to you. Some of it I could grapple with, most of it my eyes just kind of glazed over and I'm like, Oh man, I'm not touching that, I'll probably break something. The stuff I do understand is so impressive. Customizing the look of your car, I don't think I've ever used an editor that provides this much flexibility. Livery templates and layers and color choices and logos and different metal types you can apply to individual sections of the car, and I spent a fair amount of time making my Xbox Supra, aka the Supra Xbox 360. I call it that because when other drivers see it, they do a 360 and drive away. I'd also mention that when you finalize a look for your car, you can upload it to a database for others to immediately download and use. Whenever you acquire a new car, the first thing you are shown are the community-created looks. Even with the game being in closed access right now, I still saw some fantastic designs, and I can't imagine what things would look like when the broader player base is able to contribute to this stuff. When your car looks how you want it to look, you can then upgrade it. This part isn't so complex, it's basically spending credits to improve components. The numbers go up, the car performs better. Interesting though, if you upgrade it too much, it pushes the car into a new class. So the intent here isn't to make the car the best it can possibly be, but rather the best it can be for the class you'd like to race it in. And over time, you'll build out a garage of fully decked out cars best suited for a variety of racing classes. The last thing is the tuning of the car. Stuff like all of this stuff. And I don't know what any of this is, or what any of it means. This is the stuff I'm too scared to touch. I like that I feel that sort of fear in a game like this, though. I like that this game has wacky multiplayer modes where I roll around in a monster truck knocking over giant bowling pins, while still having customization systems so deep and so specific that they terrify a layman like myself. That speaks to a range that few games could ever hope to achieve. And by the way, the specific tuning setups for each car are also updated to a database, and you can peruse community-created configurations and download them. So if you're like me and you don't understand any of this, you can just rely on the wisdom of the broader community. Love that. Speaking of community creations, Forza Horizon 5 ships with something called Events Lab, which is essentially just an editing tool where you can not only create unique race layouts, but also add custom rule sets to those race events. Once you've done that, you can upload those to the community hub, where people can participate in them and vote on their favorites to see them bubble up to the top in discovery and search. The sum of all these customization options and player-created content is that you really get to carve out your own place in Mexico should you choose to. You can absolutely enter Horizon as a casual passerby just looking for some good times, or you can refine exactly how you look, which cars you want to collect, upgrade, and precisely tune, which race events you want to spend the most time in. Maybe you want to mind your own business and race the AI, or maybe you want to bump into other drivers, challenge them to head-to-head races or other events. Maybe you want to become someone who creates a lot of community content, car designs, car tuning configs, custom race courses, custom team battle events. Maybe you just want to be a collector, slowly amassing a stable of cars that no one in real life could ever hope to achieve, except maybe Jay Leno. Forza Horizon 5 is not an MMORPG, but I think it achieves many of the same things that a good MMO does. It creates this living, breathing world full of discovery and things to do. It's full of deep systems that enable rewarding gameplay experiences, and it's focused on community connectedness, reminding people that they exist as one among many, and that by working together you can have a better experience than simply existing on your lonesome. That's a pretty impressive suite of accomplishments for a game that also has a doom horn. I would be remiss if I didn't point out my one glaring objection to this game: monetization. Now let's be clear from the start, no one who wants to buy Forza cares about this stuff. The sports and racing categories have totally different tolerances for microtransactions and add-on pricing than the core gaming audience, which is why Marvel's Avengers can add paid XP boosters and all hell breaks loose, and yet Forza Horizon 5 sells a day one VIP pass that doubles all of your race rewards and no one cares. It's literally that Gordon Ramsay meme. But yeah, Forza Horizon 5 is one of those games that needs a complex chart so you can see which version to buy, and even then you need to go and Google each individual line item because none of them make sense. The car pass periodically gives you free cars. The early access is exactly that. Pay more money, get it earlier. The expansions are expansions, and look, fair enough, I get that. That's new content, never any problem paying for that. The VIP pass though, that's some bullshit. It's $20 US and it gives you 3 cars, some cosmetic stuff, and twice as many credits from race wins. Credits are what you use to buy and upgrade cars, so it's kind of a big deal. Like, imagine if Destiny sold an upgrade that gave you twice as much loot from all activities. Gamers would burn Bungie HQ to the ground, but it's just a thing here that exists, and no one seems to mind. In addition to all of that, Forza Horizon 5 does something very interesting with Game Pass. It sells a premium add-on pack for $50 that can be applied to the Game Pass copy of the game. So you're essentially buying DLC for a game you do not own. That's a really complex topic to dive into, something that would take far too long for this video. But Microsoft has said that this is an experiment that they are running here with Forza Horizon 5, and if it's successful, I expect it'll be adopted more broadly. I'm not going to get into this now, but just let me say this. Watch this space. I think that subscription services like Game Pass offer an absurd amount of value at the moment, but I do worry about how things will look in future if premium add-on packs for subscription services become the norm. Even with my gripes about monetization, it's impossible to argue that Forza Horizon 5 does not provide enough value for the base $60 asking price, and ludicrous to suggest that it is not worth the $10 you might have to spend to experience it on Game Pass. One of the reasons I suspect people are so okay with Forza's add-on pricing is because there's so much on offer that you kind of don't mind throwing the devs a little more cash, and I get that. You buy yourself a hell of a lot of goodwill when you make a product as polished and as complete and as deep and as content-rich as this. There's so much in this game that I haven't even talked about yet, like the auction house, or the drone photo mode, or the photo game mode where you have to take pictures of stuff throughout the world, or the gifting of cars through the barn stuff, and so much more. To properly cover everything this game offers, that review is like 2 hours long, man. The purpose of this review was to communicate as best I could just how much Playground have provided here, and I hope I managed to convey that what they've built is amazing. Obviously, it builds on the 4 games that have come before it, and the Motorsport series that bear the same name. Forza Horizon 5 doesn't feel drastically different from 4, but it does feel like more. More world, more events, more cars, more customization, and more choice. If you're like me, someone who doesn't play these sorts of games, you might ask, is this worth spending some time with? Is there a hook here that might pull me in where other games have failed to do so? I think you should see this space that Playground have built. I think you should see the technical wizardry on display. I think you should feel how these cars handle and the way you can make them your own. There's every chance that you'll bounce off it after a few hours, but those won't be hours wasted because Forza Horizon 5 is a product of such quality that you'll at least get to see where the bar is for the racing genre in 2021, and it is a very, very high bar indeed. This video was brought to you by Squarespace, the best place to build a professional looking website for your hobby, business, or just because you feel like it. Let's say you want to have a career in video games or content creation. Having your own website would be a damn good start. You could use it to profile your own artwork if you were an artist. You could showcase your best writing there if that's your thing. Or if you wanted to be a games journalist or a commentator, you could start your own blog. With Squarespace, the process is always simple. Just choose from one of their many professional looking templates, update it using their intuitive tools, and voila, you've got yourself a very schmick looking website in no time. There's even more advanced features like the ability to schedule posts or traffic overview analytics so you can gain insights into where the clicks are coming from. To get started, visit squarespace.com, and when you're ready to get serious, visit squarespace.com/skillup for a 10% discount on your first purchase of a website or a domain name. Thanks Squarespace for sponsoring the video, and thank you for watching it. Thanks for watching my video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down so I know to do better for next time. If you enjoyed yourself, consider subscribing, and if you really enjoyed yourself, maybe consider hitting that notification bell so you never miss a video. You can see my patrons here on the left. They're awesome. They're amazing. If you want to join them, check out my Patreon page. Thank you again. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.